Ying Xiong is a weak, ugly loser who worked as a security guard in a school and was always humiliated by girls. However, he quickly became stronger after awakening his powers as a cultivator, after which he gets revenge on his bullies. But before that happened, an ugly lady named Mizu approaches the exit of a residential floor one night and opens the door with magic. Meanwhile, Ying Xiong, a newbie security guard, lies on his bed, scrolling through TikTok, while his senior Li works on his desktop computer. The power supply suddenly gets interrupted, annoying the ugly fatso, so he immediately orders Ying Xiong to go and check the circuit at the rooftop. The ugly newbie replies that he just laid on his bed, but Li tells him to shut the f up, reminding him that he is the newbie here and adding that working with this attitude will put him in trouble someday. So Ying Xiong wears his shirt and heads out of the room. Mizu reaches the rooftop and activates her powers, which immediately suspends her in the air. Meanwhile, the unfortunate newbie heading outside wonders why the stupid ugly fatso was so rude to him when it's just his first day of work. However, he concludes that he has no choice but to swallow his pride since he needs this job to fend for his broke ass. He soon reaches the exit and is surprised to see the door open. He wonders if it's a thief and immediately opens the door to see who is outside. Then he sees a low-budget Supergirl in the air. Mizu becomes distracted by seeing him, and while she looks at him, a bolt of lightning suddenly strikes her, knocking her unconscious. Ying Xiong quickly approaches her and sees her unconscious, so he wonders what he should do and considers pretending not to see her. He stands up to leave but changes his mind and returns to help. He remembers the first aid measures he's seen on the TV, but he reconsiders this, thinking he shouldn't touch an unconscious girl. However, he convinces himself that he is a gentleman with no evil intentions and is only doing this to save her. So he leans over to kiss her, which immediately causes a bright light to shine into the sky. Mizu suddenly finds herself in another world, and she remembers she was passing the heavenly tribulation before she was interrupted by someone else. She shockingly sees her mom right there, but as she tries running to meet her, she fades away. Mizu regains consciousness and sees an ugly idiot transferring his disgusting breath in her mouth, so she gives him a befitting slap. Ying Xiong quickly apologizes, defending that he only gave her his first kiss to save her. Mizu gets angrier as she tells him she just wasted her first kiss too, and then he replies that they are even since it's both their first kisses. But she hits his face again since he has chosen to be an idiot. She goes back in anger, reasoning that she got careless, but she's not much disturbed since he didn't see her using the heavenly tribulation as the cultivation world is ruled by the law of the jungle. If any mortal gets involved, they will surely be isekai'd. As she walks, she suddenly notices a glow of light on her hands and immediately begins to feel pain. She discovers something wrong with her power and wonders why her cultivation reduced to the previous levels even though she had failed. She then reasons that all she had worked will be wasted at this rate and decides to check out the issue as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Ying Xiong feels a fever with strange things happening in his room as he sleeps that night. The next day, he sits outside wondering what's going on with him. However, he observes he feels more refreshed than ever and now has clearer eyesight. He suddenly sees the same ugly-ass bitch from yesterday walking across. An ugly guy waiting by a Ferrari approaches her with flowers, but she stumps him as she doesn't do ugly boys.
That one there was a violation.
This feels relieving to watch for Ying Xiong as he is surprised that an ugly girl like her also has men chasing them. A mysterious invisible eye suddenly appears in the sky, having perceived that a new cultivator has appeared, so it decides to test the new cultivator's abilities. The ugly boy tries to persuade Mizu, but she doesn't give a shit. Meanwhile, a pretty blonde receives a call in front of a building, completely unaware that the billboard atop the building is about to fall off. The billboard suddenly begins to fall, shocking everyone as they begin to run for their lives. Ying Xiong sees this and immediately starts running toward her, intending to practice what he has only seen in movies. As he approaches her, he realizes he is no hero as the billboard almost falls on the lady. However, he shockingly activates a lightning bolt from his hand that crashes the billboard to a nearby building, saving the lady. He immediately faints from exhaustion and later wakes up tied to a bed. He sees Mizu and is shocked as she gets in a sus position, trying to seduce him, but he tells her she is ugly, making her stand up immediately in embarrassment. He asks her what she wants to do, and she replies that she wants to take back what belongs to her, shocking him as he can't remember taking anything from her. She refers to the lady he saved earlier and tells him he used her powers, but he thinks this is a hell of a stupid claim. She immediately activates her power and tells him she is a cultivator. She then gives him two options, to die under her power or cultivate with her and become immortals together. Afterward, they are both in the elevator or a hotel, going for their private cultivation practice. Ying Xiang admires the beautiful scenery of the bustling city, saying he never noticed this before. However, Mizu tells him that he only sees the surface as most parts of the city are full of darkness. He asks if she knows what is happening in those dark places, and she tells him no. So he tells her that watching those bright parts is enough, but the girl thinks he's just an idiot. He tells her that he knows that there are dark places in the world, and that there are things happening that can make people angry and desperate. However, he asks her that if cultivation can give him such great power, then why not use such power to help those who are in the dark? But Mizu continues looking at him like an idiot and tells him that talk is cheap. They soon get to the rooftop, and he asks if they will be doing the conservation training here. She responds by asking him if he wants to grow fast or slow, and he replies that he'd like to grow fast. She tells him to jump then, saying that people usually get very powerful strength when death is coming. He becomes skeptical that he might fail to awaken his power, and she tells him there will only be news in the next day's newspaper about a school security guard's death. She adds that he will be isekai'd by other cultivators sooner or later anyway, if he doesn't awaken since he is stupid, and she urges him to give it a try. He moves closer to the edge of the roof, scared that he might die, but Mizu grabs him and pushes him off. He begins to panic as he falls off and tries hard to awaken his power but fails. He continues to fall and becomes more scared, thinking that this is the end for him. However, Mizu also jumps after him and tells him they will die together, holding onto him. They continue to fall, and suddenly, Ying Xiang develops wings with which they land safely. He immediately launches into the air again, carrying her in his arms, and flies off so skillfully like he has been doing it for 15 years. He takes her up into the sky, and while he tries to crack some lame jokes, she gets angry, grabs him, and crashes him to the ground at great speed. She chokes his neck and tells him not to be proud as everything needs to be paid for, surprising him. She explains that the modern cultivation world is like a forest that lacks resources, and cultivators are the beasts living in the forest. These cultivators hide in dark places in order to keep a kind of balance that nobody knows where others are. She tells him that he might be a future threat to the other cultivators, so she has to isekai him quickly when he is still weak. She soon releases him and warns him never to expose himself next time, as he might not be so lucky. Meanwhile, an old idiot perceives that some moving spirit energy has appeared again, and it is leveling up very quickly. He calls Yua, his subordinate, and tells her to find and try the strength of the owner of the power fluctuation. He tells her to do it quietly, adding that she should isekai him if he's just a weak person. The next day, when Ying Xiang and Mizu return, he admires her like a simp. They meet the guy from the previous day again, who has been waiting for her since then, like a jobless idiot, so that they can go to the movies. However, she tells him she's already tired as she's just returning from the hotel with Ying Xiang. This angers the idiot, so he grabs Ying Xiang and attempts to hit him, but Mizu shows him his place and tells him to get lost. A while later, while Ying Xiang plays with his phone, Mizu sees it and becomes shocked that he is using such an old-fashioned phone, so she gives him an Android since his broke ass can't afford one. He becomes very excited and appreciates her. Then, he decides to ask her a question. He asks her why she has refused to isekai him, even though she said that in the cultivation world, the weak hide from being isekai'd by the more powerful beings. She replies that it's because her spirit energy is with him, and if she isekai him, it will also be lost. However, he tells her that the spirit energy can only be transmitted by a unique method of her family, which means she can't cultivate with him. She turns to leave, but Ying Xiang stops her and tells her he's got another question. He asks her if they can cultivate tonight, but quickly gets embarrassed at his question and starts to leave. However, she quickly grabs his hand and starts running excitedly, telling him they can start their cultivation from their hands. Ying Xiang thinks of how warm she makes him feel even though they have just met. On the other side of town that night, Yua generously gives people free tickets to Nirvana. The next day, she heads to the college where the spirit energy appeared for the first time and predicts that the person must be a man based on his spirit energy. She reasons that finding him is like a needle in a haystack, and then she observes some ugly losers simping after women passing by. So she comes up with a strategy to find the new cultivator which all men will definitely fall for, called Wetchet Booty Call. This involves her spreading out photos with the dancing seduction spell so all men will start coming to her and want to date her. An idiot walking by stops minding his business and decides to meddle in her affairs and complains about her dress, but she decks him right in the face. Afterwards, several guys start to turn up as the dancing seduction spell is already having its effect on them, but she knocks each of them out because they are too ugly and aren't who she is looking for. She becomes frustrated, wondering why she has not met the guy she's looking for even though she's almost dated all the male students in the college. She wonders why he isn't attracted to her dancing and reasons if this is because she went the wrong way or maybe he likes men. She decides to change the direction of her call, and later that night, While Ying Xiong chats with Mizu on his new smartphone, he notices Master Li acting like a creep, and he wonders what the fuck is happening with this guy. Meanwhile, Master Li is sus, and he is currently chatting with Yue, who is pretending to be a boy. Yue tells him she looks forward to meeting him at the back, so he immediately stands up like an idiot and starts heading outside. Ying Xiong finds it odd, thinking that it seems his heart has been taken away. He wonders if Li has been cursed, and remembers that there's a recent trend of people getting isekai doing one-night plot developments, so he immediately runs after him. On getting outside, Master Li sees Yue and begins to approach her as though he were possessed. However, Yue becomes disappointed as she realizes that he's just another ugly, disgusting loser, so she turns away and starts to leave. Li continues to chase her like a moron, and as he approaches her, she serves him his share of the knockout, throwing him off into the air. Ying Xiong sees this and stupidly decides to show off his powers to save him, totally neglecting Mizu's previous warning. Yue becomes excited because she's found who she has been looking for. Meanwhile, Li continues acting like an idiot, so Yue deactivates the dancing seduction spell she used on him, but Li won't stop being an idiot. Ying Xiong runs off, intending to go to the rooftop to meet Mizu, but Yue suddenly attacks him, weakening him, and then casts the dancing seduction spell on him. He starts to obsess over her and goes to meet her at the rooftop, begging for her rice cakes. As he approaches her, she activates Spirit Restriction, which is used to stop the leaking of spirit energy and spiritual sense detection, so they won't be found by outside cultivators. Ying Xiong, still under the spell, decides to propose to her and offers her his meat. But she becomes embarrassed and lands him a punch before immediately removing the dancing seduction spell before she's tempted to eat his meat. His mind restores, and he wonders what had happened. He becomes shocked at seeing her, wondering who she is and why the heck he is on the rooftop. She tells him he just made a proposal to her, shocking him, and he replies that he will be dead if Mizu knows this. Yue then summons a fiery weapon to help Mizu with that. He realizes she's a cultivator and remembers what Mizu told him. Old cultivators will always want to isekai new cultivators, so he thinks of a way to escape. He distracts her and quickly tries to escape, but as he flies off, Yue suddenly appears behind him, grabs his plot armor and crashes into the ground. Ying Xiong's plot armor are removed in the process, revealing his plot, and she calls him a perv for allowing it to be removed like that. She gets pissed and immediately charges at him, but Mizu suddenly strikes her with her power, saving him. Mizu finds him ridiculous for pulling his plot armor before a lady, and as he tries to explain, Yue reveals that he proposed to her earlier, surprising her. Mizu then tells him to kneel, saying she will come back to deal with him after she takes Yue out, making him think about how useless of a man he is. 10 minutes into his punishment, he sees the two girls arguing, so he says they are fighting over him, annoying the two of them, who immediately knock him out for spewing such trash. They'd never fight over an ugly loser like him.
Emotional damage!
The two girls prepare to fight, and Mizu tells Ying Xiong she will talk to him via telepathy from now on. Yue perceives that Ying Xiong is in the mid-stage of QE condensation while Mizu is in the early stage of foundation establishment, and gets pissed because they both release spiritual energy in front of the public when they are just a bunch of weaklings. Mizu, using telepathy, reminds Ying Xiong of the lesson she taught him in their last training about the different levels of cultivation and their vast difference from each other. She told him that he would definitely be isekai'd if he faced anyone with a greater level than he is unless he has a special weapon to fill the disparity between the levels. Yue suddenly attacks and Mizu immediately discovers that she is in the late stage of foundation establishment, a stage she can't defeat even if she works together with Ying Xiong. However, she summons her sword and begins to fight. They both engage in an intense exchange. Then Yue suddenly sends an attack with her fiery sword, but Mizu quickly disappears and reappears just above her before striking her with her black sky, crashing her to the ground. She then tells Ying Xiong to leave immediately and that she will catch up with him later. The two dash at each other again with their powers, but Yue overpowers Mizu and grabs her neck. She then takes her higher into the sky before crashing her hard to the ground. Mizu becomes very weak and writhes in pain, but Yue continues hitting her, after which she summons a more powerful attack and unleashes it on her. Mizu quickly blocks it with defense restriction, but the attack becomes too overwhelming for her. Meanwhile, as Ying Xiong escapes, he suddenly realizes that Mizu will never come out of that fight alive, with such a huge difference in their cultivation levels. On the other side of town, Yue's master finishes adding more isekai trophies to his name, and he thinks about harvesting Yue's soul too after she returns from her mission so he can use her to break through to the late stage of the core formation stage. Mizu continues to resist with all her might but soon gets hit. Yue approaches her and tries planting the seeds of hatred in her heart against Ying Xiong for running off and leaving her behind. But Mizu refuses to think that way. Mizu tells her that people like her will never understand, making her angry. She instantly attempts to isekai her, but Ying Xiong intercepts and receives the damage instead. Mizu, who already thought she was going to die, becomes shocked when she sees him. She begins to cry and remembers her mom once telling her, when she was young, that the man she is going to marry in the future must be able to comfort her and take care of her, and also must protect her from getting hurt. As the two lovers spend their last moments hugging each other, Yue kicks Ying Xiong away in anger and also knocks Mizu unconscious. He loses consciousness and wakes up in another world where he sees a guardian of the underworld who introduces himself as Xuanzi, shocking him. Xuanzi summons the black sky and unleashes its power, amusing Yingxing, who immediately recognizes the weapon. Xuanzi tells him that his spirit energy originated from the same source as his, but he is surprised that Ying Xiong is not from the same bloodline. Then he concludes that he must be the cultivation partner of one of his offspring. Ying Xiong recalls Mizu once talking about her ancestor and wonders if this is the ancestor she was referring to, so he decides that he will use her name and see how Xuanzi responds. He tells him he is Mizu's husband, amusing, as he realizes that he is indeed his offspring's cultivation partner. He then decides to give him a special fortune to help his cultivation. He summons the Hun Tian beads and gives them to him, telling him he got them by chance many hundreds of years ago, and that he left something inside that might be of help to him. Xuanzi then tells him he is running out of spirit energy, so he can only help him out of his current danger. Xuanzi soon leaves, telling him he will regain his power as soon as he leaves here. However, Ying Xiong asks how he is going to use the beads, but he doesn't give him a reply. Afterward, while Mizu cries over his unconscious body, a beam of light suddenly shines from his body into the sky, and Ying Xiong emerges from it with a changed appearance, carrying Mizu in his hands, which shocks Yue. She is surprised by the strong spirit power emanating from him and the rate at which he is leveling up. She reasons that she cannot fight him at our current level and might die at this rate. She wonders if his level is higher than her master's, so she immediately activates Fire Whip and unleashes an attack, but Ying Xiong destroys it in one word, shocking her, and she falls to the ground weak. Now that her magic weapon is destroyed, she decides to jump off the roof since she no longer has any hope. But Ying Xiong quickly jumps after her and saves her, surprising her. He calls her an idiot, telling her it was only a fight and that she doesn't have to isekai herself for something so trivial. He suggests she can run away like a coward instead. He takes her back to the rooftop, and the ungrateful bastard pushes him away, asking him what a weakling like him knows about the cruelty of the world. She takes her leave, and while Ying Xiong is worried about her, Mizu tells him not to give a shit about it. Everyone has their secrets. She then pinches his ear, asking about the power he just displayed, and he deceives her by telling her that it has always been his dream to perfectly act cool for once, but she is buying his bullshit. So she knocks him on the head and then starts to drag him, asking him to go somewhere with her. He tells her he needs to rest as it's midnight already, but she replies that he should get a room where they can both spend the night. Later in the hotel room, she asks him why his spirit power suddenly increased, but he says gibberish, trying to avoid telling her what exactly happened. She tells him that his ability to absorb her spirit power is a mystery, but he continues to play dumb, so she decides to take special measures. She ties him to the bed and mounts him, ready for some smooth ride, making him wonder what she is about to do. She tells him it's the co-cultivation method from the Li family and then kisses him. She tells him not to be afraid, explaining that the co-cultivation method can reconcile yin and yang by letting their spirit power cycle through in their bodies, after which they can proceed. Ying Xiong enters another world and surprisingly finds the scene familiar. Their spirit powers fuse, and he suddenly starts to see the deep memories hidden in her. He wakes up in a strange field, apparently Mizu's memory, and looks around, wondering where she is. He then sees a locked door and approaches it. As soon as he touches it, light shines from it, and it instantly opens, bringing him to a new environment, where he is a drop of blood falling from a flower. He stares, wondering what's happening. Then suddenly, young Mizu appears, wearing a gloomy face, and she starts to draw on his clothes without uttering a word. A black hole suddenly opens beneath them, and they fall into it. Meanwhile, Mizu is also in Ying Xiong's memory, heading toward the sea of his consciousness. She plans to get closer a bit to use their spirit energy to detect which is from the same origin. However, on getting closer, she feels an overwhelming surge of a magic weapon, which she confirms to be alive, shocking her. She immediately gets sucked into another horrible scene that she has once experienced. She sees people lying on the floor dead and then sees her nemesis, making her scared as he approaches to isekai her too. Ying Xiong wakes up from his short nap amid a burning house, and immediately hears a voice calling for help. He quickly heads there and shockingly sees a strange man standing atop a building. As he wonders who this is, a wounded woman continues crying for help, but the strange guy approaches and ice cases her before Ying-seong can do anything. They both return to reality, and Mizu begins to sob as Ying-seong thinks about her painful past, prompting him to be determined to protect her. A few moments later, Mizu tells him that her family had 34 descendants in the modern civilization. However, all except her were given an all-expense-paid trip to Nirvana that night because of their family treasure, Black Sky. She adds that she will one day repay the favor as long as she continues to hold on to the treasure. Ying-seong asks her what the guy's cultivation level is, and he tells her they could join forces to defeat him. She replies that he has reached the early stage of nascent soul, making him the highest cultivation level patriarch, who also has 6 other elders with him in the independent soul level. If they meet him now, he will make a barbecue out of them. Ying-seong walks closer to her and grabs her hand, reassuring her that he will help her defeat him. She then pecks him, making him embarrassed. He decides to reveal the information about his spirit energy, which he was hiding from her, but she tells him not to worry, saying she couldn't detect any secrets in the sea of his consciousness earlier, and rather felt a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. She soon tells him to get going, shocking the idiot who already thought he was getting laid that night. On his way returning to school, he discovers that the Huntian beads he got from Xuanzi are nowhere to be found, making him worry about how he will survive in this modern cultivation world. On getting back to his dorm, he is shocked to see Yue lying on his bed in sus clothes, waiting for him. She tells him she needs a favor from him, but how she dresses won't keep Ying-seong's magnum from saying hi. She tells him she doesn't have anywhere to go and asks if she can sleep in his bed, prompting him to ask where he will sleep then. The cultured idiot Master Li takes the opportunity and offers him space on his bed, but Ying-seong would rather sleep on the floor as he is concerned about the safety of the hole in his cakes. The next day, a bunch of ugly men under the influence of dancing seduction coup before Yue to ask her hand in a relationship. But Yue is frustrated that she is only attracting ugly men. Another ugly guy arrives in a car, almost hitting one of them, who falls into a position Master Li won't mind taking advantage of. The idiot sees Mizu coming and starts simping, asking her out on a date, but Mizu tells him he's too ugly and that he must be to care for her and protect her for the rest of his life if he must be qualified to be her man. She then tells him that Yue is best suited for him, but Yue too says she doesn't want a weak, spoiled brat who can't protect her. One of the ugly suitors says the man can be him, but she gives a shut the f up punch and points at Ying-seong, saying he is the one she wants. Ying-seong becomes embarrassed thinking about the mess he is in, and as he approaches Mizu, she tells him she was thinking of going to watch a movie with him. Yue also immediately gives him a feel of her plot, saying she also wants to watch a movie with him, annoying Mizu. They both start to fight over him, and the other men around begin to vomit blood out of jealousy. Later in the cinema, the two girls won't stop fighting over him. They don't even watch the movie they came for. After the movie, they discover it is raining, and Ying-seong makes the mistake of trying to offer them his shirt to use to shield themselves from the rain, but they end up tearing it while struggling for it, also pushing him into the rain in the process. The next day, Ying-seong carries a gift in his hand for Mizu, hoping to appease her for her misunderstanding about the relationship between him and Yue. However, on his way to see Mizu, the red-haired idiot crosses him with some ugly idiots like himself, intending to deal with him for snatching his crush from him. The men ask him if he knows he offended someone, but he feigns ignorance, and they immediately attempt to whoop his ass. But he deceives them and tries to escape, but Zhao's butler causes him to fall. The hooligans run after him, but before they can reach him, Yue and Mizu see them from afar and quickly come to his rescue, whooping their asses. Afterward, he presents his gift to Mizu, but on opening it to see what's there, she realizes he's really nothing but stupid. He tells her he's inexperienced as it's his first time giving a gift, and he thought girls would like chickens. Mizu becomes disappointed in him, and he begs her, offering to give her another stupid gift. Meanwhile, Yue, seeing how the two are acting towards each other, gets jealous and leaves. Following this, as Mizu and Ying-seong walk together, talking about the gift he just got her, they see Yue walking ahead, and Ying-seong reasons that she looks like he was before, always alone. He tells Mizu he wants to go and meet her, and she agrees, so he runs over to meet her. He offers to be her friend, but she hits his hand off, telling him if not that he rapidly increased in his cultivation level the previous day, she would have isekai'd them. She also says the only reason she got close to him is because he has a powerful energy and can protect her from danger. However, he tells her not to worry about it, as he will protect her too, but she asks him if it was Mizu who told him to come and provoke him. He replies that she misunderstood Mizu, explaining that he has been in her spiritual world and discovered that she is carrying the burden of her family's death. He tells her she also feels lonely, just as they do. Yue says she thought she was just an arrogant, wealthy lady, but he replies that Mizu is only putting up a strong front before others, whereas he is the only one she can rely on. Yue realizes that this is why he is desperately protecting Mizu, and he tells her he will do his best to protect her, too, because they are friends. However, she becomes embarrassed and runs off, while Mizu taps Ying Xiang and tells him not to comfort her too much or she will get jealous. Later that night, a boy and a girl start developing plot, but a strange man suddenly appears who happens to be Yue's master and cautions them. The guy tries to defend his girl like an alpha male, but the old man lifts him and snaps his neck. He then activates his power as he reasons that the fruit, referring to Yue, which he has been nurturing for years, is now matured. Following this, he takes the two lovers to his abode, and Yue comes to meet him there while also thinking of a way of escape so she won't be her master's next meal. He asks her about the mission he gave her, and she apologizes that she failed, saying Ying Xiang got incredibly more powerful during the fight, so much so that she couldn't isekai him. He tells her it's fine and says he has reached another breakthrough point since he absorbed the blood of the two lovers he just isekai'd, and in 10 days he will isekai both Ying Xiang and Mizu, after which he will absorb their blood and level up to the late stage of core formation. He then instructs Yue to hold them off and not let them know about his existence. He starts to consume the bodies of the students while Yue quickly leaves to avoid being consumed too. Following that, Ying Xiang searches the forest, looking for Yue, and after a while, she suddenly appears, looking like she has a demon and dressed seductively. He is shocked to see her and asks why she called him out in the middle of the night and is also dressed like that, but she doesn't listen to him and starts to lose her buttons. Ying Xiang becomes nervous and quickly closes his face while still leaving an opening to behold her mighty balloons. She asks him if he wants to taste her juice.
Yeah, boy.
But he is too embarrassed to say yes and tells her he cannot betray Mizu. She gets angry and immediately summons her magic weapon. She then begins to attack him, but he dodges all her strikes. She tells him to use his spirit energy, but he refuses, saying he can't fight his friend, and she tells him he will die then. She soon attempts to stab him like she did in the past, but he doesn't fight back nor resist it, breaking her into tears as she beats him for not using his spirit energy. He asks why he didn't use it, and he pats her head as he replies that it's because his spirit energy is meant for protecting her. Mizu meets them in this position and threatens to isekai him for cheating on her, so they quickly separate. Yue then tells them that even if she doesn't isekai them, her master will eventually do, but Ying Xiang tells her that this is why they need her help. She then reveals that her master felt the release of their spirit energy shocking them, and they realize her master had sent her to fight them to test their power through fighting. Yue tells them her master will soon reach the middle stage of core formation, and after that, he will surely isekai them, making Ying Xiang realize that it's time to start preparing for their deaths. Meanwhile, Yue's master finishes consuming the two students and is excited that his cultivation level is increasing very fast. He then reasons that what he needs now is Ying Xiang and Mizu's blood, which will break him through to the middle stage of core formation, saving him 10 years for his cultivation. Ying Xiang concludes that Yue's master is the problem, but thinks that Yue going against her master is a violation of the moral code. However, Mizu says the teacher-student relationship doesn't exist in this modern cultivation world, where people scheme evil behind each other's backs. Ying Xiang then asks Yue if she had been training with her master from an early age, and she narrates her past to him. A long time ago, she lived in a small village and was the delight of her parents. She didn't have friends and was always bullied by other children who usually called her a monster. After whooping their asses for stepping on her toes, even after trying to stop herself from getting angry, she went to a cave to meet her only friend, a snake spirit, as usual, and spent some time feeding and treating her so she could recover from her wounds. Yue wished her only friend would cultivate into human form after recovering from her injuries so she could talk with her and show everyone how much her friend loved her. She thought they would be friends forever, but something tragic would later separate them. One day, on her way to the cave to see the snake spirit, she walked past a fortune teller who was busy lying to some gullible crowd. The fortune teller suddenly saw her walking across and tried to stop her, but she quickly left, not willing to listen to his junk. However, as she left, the old man began cooking, telling her she had a special body and offering to lead her in the way of Tao. But Yue didn't give a shit him and only thought of the food she needed to bring to her friend. The old man continued talking and suddenly advised her to stay away from that freaking monster she called friend, shocking her. He added that the monster would be the one to make her lose everything she had if she didn't separate from her. But Yue ran off, refusing to listen to the motherfucker. She soon got to the cave and saw red juice spilled everywhere. She became shocked and immediately started running back to town. She stumbled and fell on her face, but as she looked up, she received the shock of her life as she saw her city in flames. The snake spirit was busy doing massive giveaways of free flights to Nirvana without leaving anyone out. Yue returned to her city in fear and started looking for her parents from the many dead bodies there. She soon discovered that her parents had also won the giveaway, and she started weeping. She suddenly saw the fortune teller severely wounded too, and went to meet him. He revealed that the snake spirit escaped into the forest and died as he tried to tell her to go after her. Yue continued to cry profusely, blaming herself for being responsible for everyone's death. She grabbed a rod and headed for the forest to look for the snake spirit, but on getting to the cave, a strange man approached her and told her she was an idiot for attempting to come and isekai the snake spirit alone. He apologized for not stopping the monster from slaughtering her village, and then told her she must not die since she was the only survivor of the village. Yue didn't listen and tried to pass through him, but failed. The stranger told her she couldn't defeat the snake spirit, as they become dangerous on the night of the full moon. He then gave her a special weapon with which she could isekai the monster. Yue immediately took it and tailed the snake spirit's blood into the forest until she found her lying on the ground, severely injured. She approached the snake spirit, still fuming from the rage of the death of her village, and threatened to isekai her, asking why she did that. The snake spirit suddenly dashed at her, and Yue fell to the ground in fear. However, she activated the dagger in her hand and stabbed the snake spirit as she got closer. The snake spirit fell on her shoulder and died, which suddenly gave Yue a memory rush of all the time they had previously spent together. After a while, when she returned from the forest, she saw the old man levitating in the air and immediately considered him an immortal. She quickly fell on her knees and begged him to save the people of her village, but he told her that life, death, and reincarnation are all set by the laws of the heavens, which he wouldn't want to violate by resurrecting the dead. She told him she had pain in her heart and asked what she should do, and he offered her the opportunity to be his student on the road of cultivation, which would stop her heart from feeling any more pain. She was surprised and immediately accepted to be his student. After that, he became her master, and she followed him into the cultivating path. But one day, while training with him, she shockingly discovered that he was using some bloodthirsty fiend art to improve his cultivation level. His sight toward her also changed from before, and he began looking at her like a predator eyeing his prey. Back to the present, Yingxian becomes surprised upon hearing this, and she tells him that this type of fiend art can take normal people's blood to expand cultivation level. And while consuming a cultivator's blood, it can make him break through in cultivation. In other words, the cultivator's blood is like a tonic to train his fiend art. Mizu then realizes that if Yue's master ice-caves them and consumes their blood, he will break through to the level of late-stage core formation, shocking them. Mizu declares they can't defeat him, even if they have artificial weapons. However, Yue tells them they must act quickly, as if they wait for too long, her master will finish his fiend art and take their spirit energy by force. Upon hearing this, Yingxian becomes scared and cowardly, and suggests to Mizu that they run away to a faraway place. Mizu, too, fantasizes about withdrawing from society to a place where they can develop plot together. Yue becomes jealous and immediately cuts their stupid display, telling them that her master will still find them, no matter where they run to, making them realize they were just being stupid for thinking they could run away. Yingxian, not ceasing to be an idiot, then begs Mizu to give him all her spirit energy, as he might be able to defeat him this way. He adds that even if he dies, he won't mind exchanging her happy life with his death. They begin their stupid romantic display again, and Yingxian gets in the mood for plot development. But Yue gives his brain a factory reset with a knock to his head. Yingxian asks her what they need to do then, and she replies that they might have a chance if they work together. He becomes surprised, wondering if she plans to rebel against her master, and she replies that this wouldn't be called rebellion as her master has already been coveting her spirit energy for a long time. Her instinct is telling her that her death will come soon. She pleads that she doesn't want to resign herself to death, saying that they still have a chance as long as they work together. Mizu tells him not to accept a request as it might be a trap, but Yue responds that her master's aptitude is pretty bad, and she doesn't know why. However, her master finally reached the core formation stage after so many years of taking other practitioners' blood. She adds that she spent half her time training to reach the foundation establishment stage, but if her master keeps his speed cultivation leveling speed, she will die from his hands before she reaches core formation. Yingxian asks if their working together will give them a chance to defeat him, and she replies that they might still have a chance since her master hasn't completed his fiend art, but if not, they can only pray to God to receive their spirits. She further says they need to take advantage of striking him first while his guard is down, but Mizu objects that even if the three of them join forces, they had just a bunch of weaklings before him. However, Yued explains that his fiend art has a fatal weakness, and if they lure him into their trap, there could be a chance to beat him, surprising them. Later that night, Mizu and Ying Xiang stay at the hotel, and he asks her if she will be hammering his sausage tonight, but Mizu gives him a knock in response, calling him an idiot for saying that. However, she's only jealous that he's trying to help Yue like a hero again, but he replies that he's only trying to live up to the name his father gave him, Ying Xiang, which means hero. Mizu sees this as a brilliant response and tells him that since he has decided to fight, they need to increase their chance of winning, making him excited as he thinks she has agreed to develop plot with him so they can reach core formation, but she tells him she's not ready for his large magnum. He gets disappointed, wondering why they got a hotel room then. She suddenly grabs his hand and tells him that the last time they kissed, she saw a light ball in his consciousness world, but he pretends not to know what she is saying and says it could be a symbol of his talent. Mizu tells him no, saying she felt that the energy of the light ball is the same with her family, and it's not same spirit energy he absorbed from her. She adds that this power is greater than any she has seen, but he tells her he feels this is only his potential as a practitioner. She tells him that if he can use this energy successfully, they might be able to defeat the old freak they are up against. He asks her how he can release this energy, and she explains that it might be similar to an artificial or spirit weapon, so he will need to use his blood to release it and form a contract with the power. However, she tells him he has to be careful as powerful weapons usually contain spirits of powerful monsters that dwell in them. The spirits have their own consciousness, making the weapons really powerful. Upon hearing this, Ying Xiang becomes excited that they might have a chance of winning, but Mizu breaks the bad news, saying that it's a little dangerous releasing a weapon spirit as he might be taken over by it. This scares the shit out of Ying Xiang, but the only thing his pea-sized brain can think of is that the spirit will take over him to develop plot with her. He agrees to release the weapon spirit, since this is the best of the bad options available, and Mizu instantly cuts his palm with her magic weapon while calling out the weapon spirit. The spirit appears and Ying Xiang gives it his blood to form the contract. Then a beautiful lady spirit appears, shocking him. Mizu perceives that her cultivation spirit is high, and Ying Xiang becomes excited that they don't need to be afraid of the old freak. However, the weapon spirit punctures his excitement when she tells him that he needs to be at ascended soul level to unleash her full power. He completely damages his ego when she adds that he is too weak to keep her out long enough, and then she vanishes to really show he is a weakling. Mizu tells him that his cultivation level cannot use a percentage of its true strength, and the loser suggests that they develop plot, but she shuns him again. Later that night, Ying Xiang thinks that if he can't use his weapon spirit to fight, he will at least put her to other good uses. He cuts his palm again so he can summon her, but he struggles. The next day, while he heads out, thinking about their strategy to defeat Yue's master, Zhao appears again with two cultivators and asks him to give Mizu to him if he wants to live, but he tells him that that is for Mizu to decide, pissing him off. Zhao orders the two cultivators with him to attack him, and as they charge at him with powerful attacks, Yue and Mizu suddenly appear to block them. They both summon their special weapons, and seeing this, the two cultivators become excited, making Yue and Mizu realize that they are up against weapon hunters. They both unleash attacks with their weapons, but the two cultivators quickly cast some spells that destroy the attacks and capture the two of them, restricting them from using their power. Ying Xiang tries to fight too, but they soon put his weak ass down. One of the cultivators threatens to isekai him if Yue and Mizu don't give up their weapons. Ying Xiang begins to trash talk, and the guy decides to shut him up permanently, but just as he attempts to stab him, a bright light suddenly shines, and his weapon spirit appears to save him. She also releases Mizu and Yue, shocking the two cultivators, who then immediately attempt to escape, but Mizu stops them, and they kneel to beg. Meanwhile, Yue's master watches from afar, and he is excited that these ones will soon be his sacrificial offerings to reach the late stage of core formation. Mizu warns Zhao never to trouble Ying Xiang again, or she won't be gentle with him, breaking Zhao's heart, who becomes sad as he runs off in shame that a girl refused him. Afterward, Yue checks the weapon spirit out and wonders how the f there is something like this. The weapon spirit introduces herself as having a contract for the conclusion of Ying Xiang's blood. Mizu is surprised that he has been able to train her this well in just one night, and Yue talks about once seeing his powerful cultivation weapon. But Ying Xiang instantly remembers Xuanzi telling him not to tell anyone about his encounter with him, including the weapon he gave him. Otherwise, he won't let him rest easy. Ying Xiang reasons that the Huntian beads are related to Xuanzi's ancestor, and he can't tell her about the secret, so he quickly lies that he doesn't know where the weapon came from. Then, Yue asks the weapon spirit for her name if they can infer the situation of the cultivation weapon from her identity, but she responds that she has no name, shocking them. Ying Xiang suggests that they give her a name, and Yue being an idiot, only comes up with a ridiculous name like hers. But Ying Xiang suggests another name, calling her Ling, which she immediately accepts since he is her master, even though she doesn't like it. Yue soon leaves to prepare the Yang Flame Array, which is needed for the battle with her master. Mizu tells Ying Xiang that he needs to stop being a bitch in battles, embarrassing him, but Ling also affirms it, telling him he needs to improve his cultivation level to prevent danger. Ying Xiang feels terrible that he is so weak, but Ling tells him that he has a good cultivation level but lacks combat capability. She tells him Mizu is worried about him, and he replies that he doesn't want to always hide behind women. So Ling takes him into another realm to help him with his cultivation. Meanwhile, Mizu watches them from afar, hoping that Ling will teach him some way of escaping because there might be no chance of winning when they battle with Yue's master. Ling shows Ying Xiang the world inside the Huntian beads, and he is amused by the sight, wondering how such a large space is inside those small balls. She tells him that there are countless miraculous weapon spirits and weapons in the cultivation world, and further reveals that she was once an intelligent weapon spirit, which was made by her original master through using 10 kinds of unique treasure, and was put in the cold realm with 10 years' worth of pure spirit energy. Ying Xiang is amused and tells her she must be so powerful, but she does him the favor of reminding him that the amount of power she can release depends on her master's cultivation level, which in other words means that his weak ass is the capping her powers. He tells her that since she's got a high cultivation level, there must be some way in which she can eliminate the core formation monster. She agrees that there is indeed a way that can eliminate the monster, but if that is utilized, she won't be able to see him again, surprising him as he immediately asks if this would require offering her up as a sacrifice, and she tells him yes. She further tells him that if he commands or gets cultured with her, it will trigger a spontaneous detonation and cause hundreds of miles of barren waste. He immediately objects to this, telling her he won't allow her to be used that way. However, he tells her he is still confused about why he is still weak, even though he has more spirit energy than Mizu. And she explains that a cultivator's strength comes from the essence of heaven and earth being turned to spirit energy by circling governor and conception vessels. She tells him that his spirit energy came from others and not from his own cultivation, so he lacks the understanding of how to use spirit energy, which means he has spirit energy that he doesn't know how to use. He is surprised by this and asks how then he can use his current spirit energy. She replies that she has a solution and immediately goes behind him to pull this plot armor, leaving him wondering what she is doing as he asks if this isn't the same thing she said is capable of triggering a spontaneous detonation. He becomes scared and voices out, trying to prevent any further development, but she wonders what the heck he is doing, embarrassing him as he realizes that he's got a dirty mind. She tells him to sit down and close his eyes so she can guide the spirit energy for him. She soon starts rubbing his body, which makes him embarrassed. However, she tells him to focus, and then she begins to guide the spirit energy within his body. After a while, he controls his spirit energy and is surprised he can do this. Ling tells him his cultivation speed is fast, so he can use his spirit energy skillfully with 5 to 10 of cultivation, shocking him. He tells her to cut the crap as a major battle is coming, and he doesn't have that much time to cultivate. She tells him there's another way and reveals that she will have to use her spirit energy to help him, which will allow him freely use his spirit energy. However, she adds the process is very painful, but Ying Xiang tells her to carry on with it anyway. She soon begins to channel her spirit energy into his body, which immediately causes great pain, but he bears it, thinking that it's nothing compared to the pain and shock Yue and Mizu have felt in the past. The pain becomes so overwhelming, but the spirit energy transferring process soon becomes complete. However, as they stand up, a tree spirit that has been watching them suddenly attacks. Ying Xiang tries to block its attack, but accidentally destroys it with a power blast from his hand, surprising him. Ling tells him he can utilize the transferring of spirit energy, like he just did to use low-level art that he has already obtained. Upon hearing this, he quickly demonstrates his new control ability, and she congratulates him for now knowing how to use spirit energy. He asks her why there was a tree spirit, and she replies that she doesn't know all the secrets of Huntian beads even though she has stayed here for a long time. However, all she knows is that there is a lot of spirit energy, and its concentration is far beyond that of the outside world. Afterward, Mizu takes them to a covered cultivation shop, but Ling is surprised that there are still shops like this. She sees something regarding adult products and asks what that means, and Ying Xiang deceitfully explains that they are magical items or treasures used by elder cultivators. They head into the shop and are welcomed by some idiots who try to entertain them, but only end up being stupid. Mizu gets pissed and fries their laptop, shocking them as they realize that she is a cultivator. The female receptionist, however, congratulates her for successfully accruing some debt by destroying a MacBook. Mizu pulls some boss moves as she throws her VIP ATM card at them, telling them to put it on her account. The two unattractive receptionists become shocked on realizing that it's a knobbed cobalt aloft gold and diamond card of the night VIP, and they immediately decide to take her to meet their boss. Ying Xiong and Ling also attempt to go with her, but they stop them as they don't allow brokies inside. Mizu gives Ying Xiong a purse full of low-level spirit stones and tells them to look around while she is away. Ling tells Ying Xiong that the low-level spirit stone is the currency of the cultivation world, and he becomes amused by it. However, the female receptionist perceives that he is a gullible idiot and decides to entrap him. She suggests that they look at the shop's magical treasures, and Ying Xiong agrees immediately, saying he really needs a suitable weapon after all. The lady takes them to the store and shows them some products, but he can't afford them since he has only 50 low-level spirit stones. The receptionist tells him that even though she can offer him some discount, the lowest price in the shop is still 300 spirit stones. He gets discouraged and says he would rather keep the spirit stones to himself and not spend them. Meanwhile, the receptionist, not wanting to let them return with the spirit stones, tells him that they can still provide him with some chances to get high-value things, catching his attention. She suggests they play a gambling game so he can either win valuable magical treasures or invaluable ones with just a little amount. Ying Xiong asks Ling if he can participate, and she agrees, so he immediately follows the receptionist to check out the treasures. Meanwhile, the shop boss checks Mizu's VIP card and is surprised it is the real one. He tells Mizu that in the last 100 years, no family other than the Cultivation Li family had been given such a card. The boss introduces himself as Mei, the head of the branch, and Mizu tells him that she wants the most valuable magical item in the shop, so he tells her it will be on the condition that he has to take the card back from her. She agrees, and he heads inside to get the item. However, on his way, the ugly male receptionist wonders if this is the best decision, and Mei tells him that the item is no longer useful anyway as it can only defend a user under a deadly flow when struck by a lower level than Nascent Soul. At the same time, the female receptionist shows Ying Xiong and Ling the different hidden valuable treasures sealed in boxes. Ling tells him he can try as getting past the seals won't be a problem for her, and she promises to help him pick the best magical treasure. He gets excited and goes around checking which one to select. He then asks her for her opinion, and she selects one with just an ordinary box. On opening it, they discover it's just a rusted dagger named the Soul of the Dragon Blood, exciting the female receptionist, who thinks they are pretty unlucky. Ying Xiong tests its usage, expecting to unleash its true power, but he is disappointed as he realizes it's just a dagger. After they leave, the receptionist heads over to her boss to tell him about the profit she has just made. Mei praises her and asks what was in the box, to which she replies that it was just a dagger called the Soul of Dragon Blood. On hearing this, Mei becomes shocked, revealing that they just lost a very valuable item. Afterward, Yue reports to her master, and he asks her about the progress of the mission he gave her, but she tells him that she failed. However, he is not deceived by her facade and tells her he already knows she has colluded with the two cultivators to plan to isekai him. Yue denies this, but he tells her everything is under his observation, revealing that he was the uncle cleaning up at the school, shocking her. She accuses him of disguising, and he tells her it was convenient to suck some students that way and that he was able to learn of their plot against him in the process. He suddenly unleashes an attack, but she manages to dodge it and starts to flee while he chases after her. Meanwhile, Ying Xiong and the other two assess his new weapon, and Ling tells him it's a sealed spirit weapon with a real dragon soul in it. She further explains that it is rumored that a senior cultivator isekai'd a red dragon that was bringing disaster to the world, and he sealed its soul into the dagger. She adds that the red dragon blood on the dagger is extremely corrosive. Ying Xiong and Mizu are surprised that she knows the history of the dagger, and she tells them that she has existed in the world for a long time, so she has heard of it before. She then reveals that it was actually Xuanzi who isekai the dragon, amusing Ying Xiong that he got a valuable dagger after all. He wonders what will happen if he releases the real dragon to bite the core formation. But Ling tells him that the real dragon is a demon beast, which is hostile to humans and might cause more trouble if released. She also adds that she doesn't know how to release the dragon. Mizu reasons that this makes the weapon useless, but Ling says no, as it would have a technique to its usage, since it's a magical treasure after all. She then suggests that Ying Xiong tries putting spirit energy in it to see what happens. He tries this immediately and shockingly clones himself into three through a technique called body separation. Mizu, obviously a pessimist who doesn't see the good in anything, thinks this is trash, but Ling points their attention to the fact that she can't tell which of the bodies is real even though she has a good cultivation base, amusing Ying Xiong. Mizu is also surprised that he can now use spirit energy freely, and he tells her it's all thanks to Ling, who didn't give up on him. he suddenly gets a message from Yue through telepathy, informing him about her master's intentions to isekai them, and tells him to converge at the designated location. He informs Mizu and immediately attempts to leave, but she gets scared and asks if he really wants to do this, to which he replies yes. She then gives him the pendant she got from the covered cultivation shop and tells him to promise to stay alive, no matter what happens. They all set out immediately, with Ying Xiang determined to protect Mizu no matter what. The old geezer continues pursuing Yue, and he reveals that it had been his plan all the while since he took her in as his student to eventually isekai her, so he can reach the late stage of core formation, pissing her off. Meanwhile, Mizu tells Ying Xiang that they are not strong enough to defeat their enemy, and suggests that they try to find a way to use the array as it's their key to winning. However, Ying Xiang's instincts tell him something is off about all of this, but he doesn't know what. The evil cultivator soon corners Yuan as she tries to escape, and since she can no longer run, she decides to fight him with all she's got, but he tells her she has no chance. He attempts an attack on her, but Ying Xiang also intercepts with an attack, saving her. The evil cultivator realizes that he is using body separation, but he doesn't give a fuck about it and unleashes a deadly attack called Bloody Palm on the three of them. Yue and Mizu quickly step forward to resist it, but they defected. Ying Xiang attacks with his clones while Yue and Mizu follow up with their respective episodes, but the old man blocks them. Yue reasons that his cover is too strong and that they need to find its weaknesses, so they decide to attack together. But the old devil takes his time to enjoy their pointless attacks, telling them they know nothing about the power of core formation. He soon overpowers them, and Ying Xiang thinks of using the real dragon blood on the dagger. He charges at him with a punch, but at the instance of them hitting each other, he quickly summons the dagger and breaks his cover, dealing a little damage to his chest. The old devil is surprised that he can be hurt at the core formation stage and wonders what dagger Ying Xiang is holding. He swiftly dashes at him, grabs his neck, and then begins to absorb his spirit energy. However, Ying Xiang suddenly vanishes, and his replica appears to attack him, making the old man realize he was holding a clone. However, he doesn't know this is also a feature of the dragon blood, which allows the user to transfer his soul between the bodies, which means that he can escape from danger by switching to another body. The old man suddenly activates his ultimate technique, Fiend Art, and starts to draw them toward himself, also sucking their blood and spirit energy. Meanwhile, Ying Xiang immediately summons Ling, who instantly counters it, saving them. She then creates a barrier and tells Ying Xiang she can only hold him off for 2 hours. The old devil finds it difficult to identify her cultivation base, but he realizes it's just an empty threat, so he unleashes an attack again, cracking the barrier. However, Ling reinforces the barrier, shocking the old man, who becomes confused, but the barrier soon begins to shrink, exciting the old devil, who immediately prepares to attack again. He starts throwing several attacks at the barrier and wonders why Ling hasn't attacked him even with her high cultivation base level, so he concludes that she must be a weapon spirit or something, which is why she cannot attack. Yue is shocked that he knows this and tells her friends they need to escape quickly while Ling holds him off. They immediately flee into the forest to build the array required to trap the old devil, and after that, Ying Xiang absorbs Ling back into his body. After a while, the old man meets them and is surprised they are no longer escaping. He lunges toward them, and Yue immediately begins to cast a spell to activate the array trap. He falls into the trap and begins to struggle, so Ying Xiang and Mizu quickly attack him. Yue also unleashes her attack, but they are shocked when the old man suddenly regains his power and blasts them. Yue asks why the array has no effect on him, and he suspects that she must have secretly read about this in his Fiend Art book. He then reveals that all the weaknesses of his Fiend Art recorded in the book are fake and were only written to trick her into using the array to improve the power of his Fiend Art, so he can isekai them and take their spirit energy. Yue and Mizu, realizing that they are already doomed, start to flee, and while the old devil attempts to stop them, Ying Xiang summons Ling, who then blocks him while they escape. He reasons that his foods are already running away, and he thinks of a way to stop them. He suddenly calls Yue and begins talking about the massacre at her village, shocking her. He narrates that 20 years ago, he tracked the snake spirit to her village in order to find the snake spirit's core. However, he never expected he would find a 6-year-old who had already reached the late stage of QE condensation. He discovered that she had a body which had been able to self-cultivate since birth. He saw this as a treasure and planned to use her to remedy his terrible intelligence. He disguised himself as the fortune teller and tried to convince her to come with him, but she refused him. So he then decided to massacre her entire village while disguised as the snake spirit, and then used a magical grass which could make the snake spirit go wild. The little girl thought the snake spirit had isekai'd her village and asked for his help in getting revenge. which then made her follow him and cultivate under his education. The old devil then tells Yue that he not only got her, but he also got the core of the snake spirit, and on hearing this, she breaks down in tears, thinking about her friend. She gets angry and immediately summons Li Fire. As she heads back toward him, Ying Xiang follows her, and as Yue approaches the old devil with a fierce attack, the old man blocks her with a powerful barrier. However, Ying Xiang suddenly appears while he is distracted and stabs him with the soul of the real dragon blood. He gets furious and activates a powerful controlling art technique, which begins to affect the weather. Meanwhile, Zhao is in his private jet in the sky with his butler, and turbulence suddenly occurs that dooms the plane for a crash. The pilot quickly grabs a parachute, leaving Zhao and his butler to sort themselves. Another guy, who also doesn't love Zhao, picks up the second parachute and attempts to get himself to safety, but the butler prevents him, saying Zhao has to leave first. But who the f*** cares about Zhao? The guy struggles with the butler, which unfortunately tears off the parachute, sending the guy to Nirvana faster than the plane itself would have. The butler sees the last parachute and immediately grabs his master while aiming to catch the parachute, which is almost dropping off the plane. Meanwhile, Mizu, having another plan, flies off into the sky and mounts the crashing plane before activating her ultimate technique called Heaven's Punishment. She directs the crashing plane toward him, and on seeing this, the old devil is surprised. But he thanks God for his life, because Mizu is only in Foundation establishment, or he would have had to escape. As Mizu draws near along with the airplane, the old devil immediately starts to absorb the thunder in the Heaven's Punishment to help in leveling up to the late stage of core formation. This is followed by a massive explosion from the plane crash, and Mizu starts to deflect lightning attacks from him. The old devil soon gathers a powerful lightning bolt in his hand and darts it at Mizu, throwing her off. Ying Xiang quickly runs after her to rescue her, but as he grabs her, the old man unleashes another powerful lightning attack. However, the pendant Mizu gave Ying Xiang activates and saves them, but the old man ain't chilling, so he attempts another attack. As he approaches them, Ying Xiang combines his powers with Mizu's and unleashes Heaven's Punishment Girlfriend, which instantly cuts off one of his arms. He gets more furious and immediately unleashes his most powerful attack, Blood Absorption, which begins to suck their blood and spirit energy simultaneously. Ling appears to reduce the effect of the attack, but she can't resist for long as Ying Xiang is losing a lot of spirit energy. Ying Xiang reasons that since Ling's spirit energy comes from him, if the old monster absorbs his spirit energy, she will also be affected, so he immediately commands her to return to the Hun Tian beads while he handles the situation. He then makes his mouth before the old man as he summons his dagger, but the evil cultivator immediately activates controlling art, which he uses to control the dagger from his hand to stab him. Ying Xiang realizes that his blood is burning, and he remembers that the real dragon blood of the knife can corrode blood. The old geezer continues to absorb their spirit energy and blood, and suddenly draws Mizu into his hand. She soon loses consciousness, having lost too much spirit energy, and on seeing this, Yingxiu charges at him with an attack, but the old man shows in his place. Meanwhile, Yue hallucinates about the snake spirit and beats herself hard for not being able to take revenge as she wanted. Ying Xiang sees Mizu lying unconscious on the ground, so he immediately grabs the dagger again and suddenly transforms. Having reached the peak of his anger, he cuts his arms with the dagger and flings the dagger in the air, telling the old man to absorb his blood all he wants. However, his blood passes through the dagger, causing corroded blood, which the old monster now absorbs into his body unknowingly. He immediately begins to feel a burning inside him, and his face begins to erode, shocking him. This stops the blood absorption, and Yue immediately launches an attack at him, but he shows her again that she is just a fucking weakling as he deflects her attack and makes a goal kick. He attempts to attack Ying Xiang, but he blocks it and immediately dashes at him. However, the old man's body is almost corroded, so he quickly activates earthbending and rains several attacks on Ying Xiang, but breaks through them. He then charges at him at full speed and pierces the dagger through him. The monster begins to burn, and he declares that his fellow senior apprentice will avenge him. As he dies, he places a curse on him that he will live in immeasurable fear. But Ying Xiang believes he's just capping. Yue becomes glad that she has finally avenged her friend and family. Ying Xiang walks over to Mizu's body and calls to an unknown elder, who is surprised to realize he had noticed him. He tells the elder that he already felt a presence watching since Mizu entered his consciousness sea and contacted the Hun Tian beads. The elder wonders why he chose to call him out now, and he replies that he wants him to help save Mizu. The elder asks him why he should help, and Ying Xiang bows to him, telling him he will do anything he demands. The elder then tells him that he has been keeping an eye on him in order to get his Hun Tian beads, so Ying Xiang immediately summons it and offers it to him. but the unknown elder replies that he can't take it from there because the place he is different from his space. He tells Yingxiang he will make a 3-year covenant, during which he must bring the Huntian beads to him. Yingxiang asks for the name of the space he is in, but the elder replies that saying the name is restricted by the highest rule of the place, and he will need to find answers for himself. Yingxiang then asks what would happen if he doesn't meet the demands of the agreement, and the elder tells him that Mizu's life will go for it, shocking him. Following that, after Mizu recovers, she takes him to the garden where she used to spend time with her mom, and there he promises to protect her and prevent anything terrible from happening to her. And after this, Mizu decides to take back her real first kiss. Will Yingxiang be able to save Mizu? If you have reached this far, comment "RIP Mizu" to confuse the fake fans, give this video a like, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the notification bell. See you on the next one.